Okay, today is July 31st, 2019. This is going to be part two of a two-part video. I've come to some very intense revelations about some things, and I finally found an article that puts a lot of it into perspective so you guys will understand where I'm coming from. In the first part of this video, I covered the where Pentecost is. We have the timing of Pentecost incorrect. Tried to cover as much detail as I could to show you guys that we actually have it wrong. We're actually in Pentecost, that Feast of Weeks now. The beginning of August is going to be the culmination of that time. In this video, I'm going to cover the sign of the Son of Man. Um, I have to put this in video. I can't not share this, because so many striking confirmations have come from this. In prayer last night, I was asking for this because I don't want to put out something incorrect and just bam, 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 confirmations coming in like crazy. So I have to put this in a video now. At this point, if you're watching this, I got confirmations to share it. I'm still putting everything together to make sure it's right, and I'm asking other people about this. But what I found is that, before I read this article, what I found is that no one knows what the sign of the Son of Man is. Now, let me share you the scripture with you. Because I want to, let's see. Okay. So it looks like there's Matthew 24. Okay. So let's go to Matthew 24 and read that real quick so we can put this in perspective right off the bat. So Matthew, stay with me, guys. This is very important. Okay, so in Matthew 24, he's talking to them, wars, and Jesus answered and said to them, "Take heed that no one deceive you." They were asking about the end of the age, starting in verse 4. "For many will come in my name, saying, 'I am Christ,' and will deceive many." We see that. "And you will hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that you are not troubled, for all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. For nation will rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and there will be famines, pestilences, and earthquakes in various places. All these are the beginning of sorrows." We have this stuff. "Then they will deliver you up to tribulation and kill you, and you will be hated by all nations for my name's sake. And then many will be offended, will betray one another, and will hate one another." We have that. Actually, the other one too. "Then many false prophets will rise up and deceive many." We have that. "And because lawlessness will abound, the love of many will grow cold." We have that. "But he who endures to the end shall be saved." This is why he says to hang on to what we have. The other one, "They will deliver you up to tribulation and kill you, and you will be hated by all nations for my name's sake." That we have that for all intents and purposes. "And this gospel of the kingdom will be preached in all the world as a witness to all nations, and then the end will come." We have that. This is the information age. There are people in Africa right now that don't even have a house to live in, but they got a cell phone. So the Bible is everywhere. It literally is everywhere. Now, there may be some far-reaching corners that people aren't getting, direct connection with it, but it's all over the place. It's getting all over the place. So we have all those things happening right now. Now, something you need to understand about prophecy. Prophecy doesn't necessarily, in most cases, doesn't ever go in chronological order. You'll have prophecy and then stacked. Prophecies will stack on top of each other. So you have many different things happening. Like one prophecy will start, and then over a span of time, the other prophecies will pop up on top of that. And at the end of that time, all those prophecies are in place. In this case, I think that's the very same thing. We have this stuff all building up. In verse 14, "And this gospel of the kingdom will be preached in all the world as a witness to all the nations, and then the end will come." Now, what end is he talking about? "Therefore, when you see the abomination of desolation, spoken of by Daniel the prophet, standing in the holy place." Whoever reads, let him understand. Then let those who are in Judea flee to the mountains. Let him who is in the housetop not go down to take anything out of his house. And let him who is in the field not go back to get his clothes. But woe to those who are pregnant and to those who are nursing babies in those days. And pray that your flight may not be in winter or on the Sabbath. For then there will be great tribulation, such as not been since the beginning of the world until this time, nor shall ever be. And these are future events. And unless those days were shortened, no flesh would be saved. But for the elect's sake, those days will be shortened. Then if anyone says to you, look, here is the Christ, or there, don't believe it. For false Christs and false prophets will rise and show great signs and wonders to deceive, if possible, even the elect. We're having that. It's unfolding right now. See, I have told you beforehand. Therefore, if they say to you, look, he is in the desert, do not go. Or look, he is in the inner rooms, do not believe it. And we have that. I actually covered that at the beginning of the year. For as the lightning comes from the east and flashes to the west, so also will be the coming of the Son of Man be. Now, this is what he's talking about. This is the end of the tribulation. You will know when he's approaching. All eye will see him. Listen. For wherever the carcass is, there the eagles will be gathered together. Give me a lot of dead. Immediately after the tribulation of those days, the sun will be darkened, and the moon will not give its light. The stars will fall from heaven, and the powers of the heavens will be shaken. So it's immediately after the tribulation of those days. Which tribulation? The beginning part of it, the end part of it? It's not 100% sure exactly where he's talking about. It could be just before. But listen to what he says, because I've discovered something about this. Then the sign of the Son of Man will appear in heaven, and then all the tribes of the earth will mourn. And they will see the Son of Man coming on the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. So this kind of seems like it's jumping back in time, because he's talking about the end of the 7-year tribulation and all the things that are happening. But now it seems like he's jumped back. Because in verse 29 it says, immediately after the tribulation of those days, the sun will be darkened, and the moon will not give its light. The stars will fall from heaven, and the powers of the heavens will be shaken. But what tribulation, though? Is he talking about the 7-year tribulation, or is he talking about the tribulation we're dealing with now? We're going through all the things that we just read. So to me, it kind of seems like he's talking about just before. So bear with me on this, because I'm going somewhere. Verse 30, then the sign of the Son of Man will appear in heaven, and then all the tribes of the earth will mourn, and they will see the Son of Man coming on the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. And he will send his angels with a great sound of a trumpet, and they will gather together his elect from the four winds, from one end of heaven to the other. Now he goes into the parable of the fig tree. So now he's jumping backwards in time again. And the parable of the fig tree tells us about when we see these things. I'll go ahead and read it. We need to know these things. Now learn this parable from the fig tree. When its branch has already become tender and puts forth leaves, you know that summer is near. Now, because it's a parable, there's information hidden in here. We're actually about to go out of that time frame. So you also, when you see all these things, know that it is near at the doors. We see all these things. Assuredly, I say to you, this generation will by no means pass away till all these things take place. We're there. Heaven and earth will pass away, but my words will by no means pass away. So he's very clearly saying all this stuff is going to unfold right before us. When we see that, we know the time is now. I'm jumping to verse 36. But of that day and hour, no one knows, not even the angels of heaven, but my Father only. Day or hour of what? Is it when they see things happening beforehand, the end of those tribulation of those days? Because he doesn't specifically say the tribulation. He says tribulation of those days. So that kind of makes me think it's talking about just before the 7-year tribulation, because we're in tribulation now. It's bad out there. So of that day or hour, no one knows. Now this is where it kind of seems like he's talking about the rapture. But as the days of Noah were, so also will the coming of the Son of Man be. For as in the days before the flood, they were eating and drinking, marrying and giving in marriage, until the day that Noah entered the ark, and did not know until the flood came and took them all away. So also will be the coming of the Son of Man be. Now, I want to point something out here. If they see him coming, why does this say they're not going to know when it happens until it happens? To me, that's describing two different events. Because if they see him coming on this other one, they know it's coming. And the Bible talks about at the end when he's coming down to the earth, they're going to see him coming and they're all going to flee. Everybody's going to be crying out, great power and glory. This isn't describing that. This is like, boop, there he is, and he's just going to appear. I see two different events here. Stay with me. Then two men will be in the field, one will be taken and the other left. Two women will be grinding at the mill, one will be taken and the other left. Watch therefore, for you do not know what hour your Lord is coming. If we see him coming in the clouds on heaven and we're watching him coming, we know when he's going to get here because we're seeing him coming. How can this statement be referring to that time or that event? It can't be. I see two different events being described here. This here I see as describing, and a lot of people have come up with different stuff, but this is what I see, describing the rapture of the church. Watch therefore, for you do not know what hour your Lord is coming. But know this, that if the master of the house had known what hour the thief would come, he would have watched and not allowed his house to be broken into. Therefore, you also be ready, for the Son of Man is coming at an hour you do not expect. Very, very, very interesting that when we first start reading this, we see all the things we're seeing right now. He tells us, when you see these things, you know it's about to happen. It's at the door. Then, it seems like he jumps right into a totally different description event. It seems like he's talking about the time when he returns at the end. Then, he jumps back again and goes into another subject, like he's talking about the rapture of the church. Now, we can read all this together and go, okay, all these events are going to happen together. But Bible prophecy doesn't work that way. You can have a prophecy start and it'll go on forever. And then all of a sudden, a bunch of other prophecies will jump in on it and then they'll end. We don't know or see exactly when this stuff starts or stops. Now, one event, done, deal, that's it. Like the Revelation 12 sign. And a lot of people still argue whether that was it or not, but it fits the description. Be that as it may. Because what I'm about to show you pertains to that. So, when I read Matthew 24, this is what I get out of it. Let me continue reading because we want to get this in as much perspective as possible because I'm about to show you guys something that's going to blow your minds. It still wipes me out. Therefore, you also be ready, for the Son of Man is coming at an hour you do not expect. We don't know when the rapture is. To me, that's what that's talking about. Who then is a faithful and wise servant, whom his master made ruler over his household to give them food in due season? Blessed is that servant whom his master, when he comes, will find so doing. Let's go back and read 45 again. Who then is a faithful and wise servant, whom his master made ruler over his household to give them food in due season? This is because there's a reference in the Bible where Jesus says, yes, the word of God is food indeed. This is talking about all of us sharing this stuff. If you're putting up videos and sharing the gospel and sharing scripture, this is us. To me, this is talking about us. Blessed is that servant whom his master, when he comes, will find so doing. This is why I covered this. If you have a calling, if you're fighting against this calling, this desire to do, you better answer the calling. Because what will Jesus catch you doing when he comes here? Confirmations over and over. Okay, verse 47. Assuredly, I say to you that he will make him ruler over all his goods. But if that evil servant says in his heart, my master is delaying his coming, we see that, literally see that, very same phrase being said, and begins to beat his fellow servants and to eat and drink with the drunkards, we see that happening. The master of that servant will come on a day when he is not looking for him and at an hour that he is not aware of, and will cut him in two and appoint him his portion with the hypocrites. There shall be weeping and gnashing of teeth. To me, this is literally talking about three different frames of time, three different events that are going to happen. Now, I read all that, but I want to go back to verse 30 and verse 31. You better take off. You got a little time left. Okay. So verse 30 and verse 31. Let me read them again so we get back into this perspective of this. Then the sign of the Son of Man will appear in heaven, and then all the tribes of the earth will mourn, and they will see the Son of Man coming on the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. We're going to see him coming. We go further down in Matthew. How can that be talking about that when it says nobody's going to know when he's coming? I don't understand that. To me, that's two different events. And he will send his angels with a great sound of a trumpet, and they will gather together his elect from the four winds, from one end of heaven to the other. To me, that's the gathering of all those that are dead in four corners of heaven. Bring them all together because they got to come back and get put back in their bodies. And from the four winds that's on the earth, bring us all together. That's what that says to me. A lot of people come up with different stuff, but hey, this is what it's saying to me. Now, why am I pointing this particular thing out? And this may be a long video, but I got to get this put down because it's so interesting. I've been sick for days because I've been holding on to it, not putting it out, and I've been sick. I got to get this down. Anyway, you guys do what you want with the information. This, by no means is this prophetic. By no means am I saying this is the day or hour. But I'm about to point some stuff out to you that is going to completely blow your mind. And it fits. So, first, the sign of the Son of Man. What is it? Nobody knows what it is. I've done all kinds of stuff. I even, like Tommy Ice from Dallas Seminary, very respected, and many others that I've read articles on, they don't know. What they say is, because he refers to sign of the Son of Man, and then there's a sign of Jonah. What will be the coming of your age? Well, this seeks a sign. The only sign they'll get is the sign of Jonah. What is the sign of Jonah? Everybody goes to 3 days and 3 nights in the belly. One was a fish, one was the earth. If that's the sign of the Son of Man, they're saying that we're going to see Jesus pantomiming 3 days and 3 nights in the belly of the earth up in heaven. And we're going to see that. That doesn't make sense to me. There has to be a sign, a symbol, an insignia. Now remember, I've told you there's tons of hidden messages and hidden details we have to glean out. So, what I did is I went back to the sign of Jonah and I did a little digging. A great amount of emphasis was put on that great fish. So I thought, okay, let's go with that because fish is a super common theme throughout the Bible. Fish is related to Jesus constantly. Ironic too, and this ties to what I'm about to show you. When he fed the 5,000, had 5 loaves of barley, that's significant, and he had the 2 fish. Why would it just be that number? Why would it be that specific number? Because it pointed it out. Now, what I'm going to show you with this article I'm going to read is going to point that out too and tell you what it means. Very, very telling. And this has always been there and we've never seen it. This is what's amazing about this. So I thought to myself, well, the only constant in the Bible is fish. One end to the other. That's the only constant. To me, that's saying something. That's speaking. Okay, this means something. So I thought, well, let's go with the great fish. Let's see where that leads. So here's where I took off at. So I was like, is the Pisces, because the constellation, the only constellation in the heavens that matches a great fish is Pisces. It's 2 fish tied together. So I thought, okay, well, let's go with this and see where this goes. And I started doing some digging and I found out that Pisces is directly related to Jesus Christ. They share the same attributes. Here's something else I found, is that the age of Pisces, roughly, most astrologers and astronomers roughly agree, the age of, because we're in the age of Pisces right now, the age of Pisces started around 0 to 1 AD. If that's the case, we're in the, they all say we're in the age of Pisces. And the way it works is that the sun gets in front of the constellations. And right now it's in front of Pisces. We're about to go out of the age of Pisces into the age of Aquarius. So much, this article is going to share so much with you, but so much stuff links all this together. How many times in the Bible does it mention this age, this current age, end of the age? What age? We see a lot of different references for that. Could it not be referring to? We know he uses his celestial bodies to send signals and to talk to us. He created all of it. A lot of people get all bent out of shape because, oh, you're going into astrology, you're looking at the stars. We're not supposed to do that. No, you're not supposed to study and dedicate that or put your faith into that. But we can look at it for reference's sake to help us understand many of the different things that are going on. That's where the Revelation 12 sign came from. Most of your adherents to staying away from astrology will deny that's what that is. But when you read it, it describes that. So, we know God uses his creation for all these things. So, when I got led to that, I started looking at that and I was like, wow, that really fits big time. Here's what I found, and this is extremely, extremely just jumps out at you. If the sign of the Son of Man is going to appear in heaven, and it's Pisces, say for reference sake, it's Pisces, it would be its most prevalent at a certain time of the year. Okay, well, I found that this year, it's on September 14th. I'm not setting a date. Listen to the rest of the information. I already know where people are going to go. I'm not putting a day down for the rapture. However, I am pinning it down to a very small time frame. So that's when it's at its zenith, its highest, its most prevalent. When Pisces is in conjunction to a full moon, it becomes more prevalent, more powerful, more, there's another word for it. It's more, I can't think of what the word I'm looking for. Anyway, in conjunction with a full moon, it creates a greater case for it. Some certain emotions are attributed to Pisces, like depression, sadness, just being down, This year, the harvest moon, the full harvest moon, is on September 14th in conjunction with Pisces. How ironic it's a harvest moon, because harvest moon jumps from September to October. How ironic that those are pinned together like that. Now, of course, this has probably happened before, but it doesn't happen that often. So same day, September 14th, Pisces is at its zenith, and it's in conjunction with the harvest moon, which is also at its zenith. Now I went to signs, or clouds of the heavens. They will see the Son of Man coming on the clouds of heaven. Well, what are the clouds of heaven? Now, a lot of people say it's going to be right up in our skies, our things. Well, that's not Jesus coming. He's here. If he's in our atmosphere, he's here. So it's got to be out there somewhere. There is only one celestial body that is directly referred to as the clouds of heaven, and that's the Milky Way. Guess when the Milky Way is at its zenith, most prevalent, highest in the sky? September 14th. So right there, you've got three things tied together that point directly to what we're looking for, bar none. Now, what ties this together even more, if it wasn't good enough that it was all on the same day, is that all three of these celestial bodies are going to be lined up for a 3.5 hour time period. How many times is 3.5 used in the Bible? So, that's where it took me. And I want to read you this article because I want to cover some other details here. And it's a zodiac. It's helloastrology.com. Now, I'm just using this for reference purposes, but there's a lot of information here that really wakes up this stuff. So stick with me and just hear me out and listen to the information. You do what you want with it after that. Hate me, love me, doesn't matter. The fact is I got to get this stuff out because I found it and I can't get rid of it. It's titled A Religious Era Ending. You've heard that we're entering the age of Aquarius, but that's still some 150 years ahead, give or take. And you'll see here in a minute. We live in the age of Pisces and have done so for 2,000 years. It's the age of religion, and its final stage is increasingly fanatic. The confirmations in this are striking. Astrological ages. Western astrology has an annual starting point in the spring equinox, March 21st, which is when the sun enters Aries. But the latter is not exactly true. The Earth wobbles slowly as it spins around its own axis, which makes the spring equinox move around the whole zodiac, It's called the precession of equinoxes. One such rotation around the zodiac takes about 25,870 years, give or take. Depends on what year it is or what time frame it is. That means it travels through one zodiac sign in almost 2,160 years, give or take, depending on the situation. The movement is backwards, so it goes from Aries to Pisces to Aquarius, and so on. That's why we talk about astrological ages. Remember all the times ages is mentioned in the Bible? Each era of about 2,160 years is signified by the characteristics of the zodiac sign where the spring equinox actually takes place. Right now, the spring equinox is at the beginning of the sign Pisces, which means that we are getting to the end of the age of Pisces. When the equinox moves into Aquarius, the age of Aquarius begins. Since we base our years on the mistaken birth year of Christ, it's safe to say that the year 1 CE, there is no year 0, is the starting point of the present era of the age of Pisces. Now, since they can't pin exactly down, some people it goes 6 BC, some 4 BC, some 1 AD, CE. There's all different times that they're coming up with the birth of Christ, but nobody knows exactly what year it happened. We can get close. This is just more information to show us that we don't know the day or the hour. So, we have lived in this era for a little more than 2,000 years. And the next era, the age of Aquarius, will begin approximately in the year 2160. Now, that's not a guarantee, that's approximate. We don't know exactly how this is unfolding, but we know we're now passing out of this age. Its starting point is not likely to be at a certain day, not even a specific year, at least not how it's perceived when it comes. The change is vast and complex, so it will take its time, both before and after the year 2160. So we actually are passing out of Pisces now into Aquarius. There is a block of time when that passing happens. But we're definitely not there yet. We have not entered the age of Aquarius. We're at the end of the age of Pisces, which is one where the characteristics of Pisces forcefully struggle to stand their ground in a battle against the characteristics of Aquarius. We're in that battle. The age of Pisces. Pisces stands for faith, belief, sacrifice, and religion. Y'all tell me if this strikes a chord with you. Aquarius represents thought, contemplation, innovation, and science. In the movement from the former era to the latter, religion battles science. This is very evident in our present world. We might have thought that science triumphed already by the discoveries of Newton, Darwin, Einstein, etc. But these last few decades, we see religion making an aggressive, fundamentalist comeback, as if we have to choose between the two cosmologies, although they really speak about completely different things, with completely different languages. Now we get into some meat and potatoes. Christianity and the fish. Pisces is the sign of the fish, of course. And during the past 2,000 years of Christianity, the fish has been an essential symbol to Christians. Back then, they couldn't put a cross, because everybody attributes the cross as a sign of Jesus. They couldn't go and draw a line on the ground and expect somebody to complete that and not know who they were. Anybody could have done that, and they'd have known. So they used this fish symbol, and one would draw one arc and wait for the other one to finish the fish. If they did, they knew they were with a Christian. This was their secret sign, because they were hiding from everybody. They were all being persecuted at that time. This started way back in the early days of the religion. This symbol actually goes almost 1,000 years before this, when Christians were persecuted and needed to hide their belief from the world. They used the symbol of the fish as sort of a secret sign among each other to mark their Christian faith. The fish in Greek is ichthys, and in the Christian use it. And in the Christian use, it wasn't. He forgot to put a comma there. And in the Christian use, it was an acronym for Lesos Christos Theo Ios Soter. And this translates to, because you'll see the IX, all that stuff in there, it translates to Jesus Christ, God's Son, Savior. Rather than writing the word, they used simplified fish images. See, for example, the funerary stele below from the 3rd century CE. It has two fish, just like the astronomical symbol of Pisces. And basically it's an old tombstone. It's a marker, and it's got a bunch of Greek lettering at the bottom, but it has IXOYC, which is that acronym, and it has the two fish right there and an arrow going in between them. Very interesting. Uh, okay, the three periods of an era. As the spring equinox travels slowly through a zodiac sign, that era goes through three main stages that correspond to the three qualities of the zodiac: cardinal, fixed, and mutable. A zodiac sign can have either of the three qualities. Pisces is mutable, whereas Aquarius is fixed. But also, every sign can be divided into three parts, each spanning 10 of the 30 degrees of the sign. They are called decans, which comes from the Greek word for 10, deca. So, the first 10 degrees of the sign belong to the cardinal decan of it. The 11th to 12th degree are in the fixed decan, and the 21st to 30th degree are in the mutable decan. The cardinal quality is one of leadership, of boldly moving on in the direction of one's own initiative, demanding others to follow. Remember what time frame they think Pisces started? Who was around then? The fixed quality is that of one who remains where he's at, unwilling to lead and equally unwilling to follow. That's been almost the entire last chunk of the 2,000 years. The mutable quality is that of the follower, who seeks others up and goes where they point, even if it leads to personal sacrifices. Pisces is a mutable sign, but its three decans still have their own tendencies, although none of them is more typical in its characteristic than the mutable one because it's in accord with the general quality of the sign Pisces. Still, an era can be described as a process through the three decans, where each takes slightly more than 700 years since the spring 700 years. Since the spring equinox moves backwards through the zodiac sign, these decan periods also go backwards. The first period of an era is the mutable one, next the fixed, last the cardinal. This means, generally speaking, remember, keeping this loose, that an era starts by searching for its identity, beginning of the church. In a process taking 700 years or so, the next 700 years, it's established and remains quiet conservatively in this state for affairs. That's been, the last a couple hundred years, 800, 900,000 years. The last 700 years, it's increasingly involved in battles to remain and keep its dominance, in vain, of course, since the new era will come, but the process is both noisy and costly. That's where we're at right now. And we've been building up to this for the last roughly 700 years. Three phases of the religious era. Here's where we link it all together. The age of Pisces can be divided accordingly. The first period of the Christian era until about 720 CE, but it's not that exact. Remember, it's all floating. The religion gradually found, explored, and established itself. It was a time of excited religious speculation where lots of people were willing to make great sacrifices for the sake of it. Go look back in Christian history and look at how bad things were up in that time and how the church blew up. This period of the age of Pisces was the most inspired and significant one because Pisces is a mutable sign. And at that time, it was mutable. It was growing. During the second period of the age of Pisces, circa from 720 to 1440, roughly, there's a lot of stuff that happened in the church around 1440. The Christian religion was well established and very powerful. It controlled society, which it did. Without being that much questioned or opposed, European society was solidly Christian, ruled by its teachings, and this seemed to have the power to go on forever. In the third period, circa from about 1420 to about 2160, the existing religious cosmology and world order is increasingly questioned and needs to defend itself with more and more force. Are we not in the middle of that right now? Like hardcore. This is what we see around us. Scientific perspectives challenge the religious paradigm, and religion responds by challenging science. So far, you guys, has to be hitting y'all. It's also true for politics and every other aspect of civilization. Religion opposes the alternative lines of thought. Since the coming era is the age of Aquarius, where reason and science are the ideals, the religious powers will aim their battles at just that. The fundamentalist questioning of Darwin's theories is just one of the examples of this. It started way before 1633, when the Inquisition demanded of Galileo to deny his astronomical findings. Copernicus had suggested a heliocentric universe with the sun and not the earth at its center 100 years earlier. Even more important was the rediscovery of the Greek philosophers at the end of the Middle Ages, stimulating scientific thinking instead of blind belief. From the Renaissance and on, religion has been increasingly questioned, particularly from a scientific standpoint. This is expressed in the anecdote about Napoleon asking Laplace why he did not even once mention God in his book about the mechanics of the universe. Laplace replied, quote, "I had no need of that hypothesis," unquote. The religious world order is struggling for its life. The closer we get to the grand finale, which is the start of the age of Aquarius, the more desperately religion will fight that change. And we are in the depths of that battle right this minute. The age of Aquarius will not be perfect. The coming 150 years will be adventurous to say the least. The main conflict between religion and science will be severe to all. There's no doubt. Did we not see that they're about to pass laws against us to shut us down? There's no doubt who will eventually triumph, but there will be very strong powers refusing to accept it. At times, they may even seem to be winning. They are not. Actually, each of their victories creates nothing but the next reason for their coming defeat. The age of Aquarius is no picnic either. It has its advantages compared to the age of Pisces, but also its drawbacks. In that era, knowledge is king. The compassion developed during the age of Pisces is replaced by the firm rule of reason, whatever the costs. Incredible. And they have more there about that stuff too. They have a link for more of that. Incredible how much of that directly connects and mirrors exactly what we've been going through the last 2,000 years. And the signs in that. So right now, I'm in no doubt that the sign of the Son of Man is Pisces. That God is using his celestial bodies to paint this picture and show us this. So the link that they put here, there's more and more. For me, that's the next thousand. That's a 1,000-year millennial reign. Yeah, it's still talking about faith and all that kind of stuff. And it goes back and starts repeating itself. Okay, so so here's what I've been able to put together. And look, it may not be September 14th that this happens, but on September 14th, Pisces is in its zenith, the full harvest moon is in its zenith, and the clouds of heaven, the Milky Way, are in its zenith. Could that be what this is referring to? It's possible. It's very, 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 very telling that it's all linking up together all on one day in a 3.5 hour time frame. What also struck a chord with me and also hit me with those scriptures that I read in Matthew 24 was that right now, and many of you know this, the Vatican has a telescope called the Lucifer telescope. It is on a mountain in Arizona that was supposed to be off limits and was set aside for the Native Americans. Native Americans won't get near it. They say it is a portal to the underworld. Very appropriate, they built it right on top of it. It's one of the most powerful telescopes in the world. Nobody hardly ever knows anything about it. In fact, most people in Arizona don't even know it's there. So they do a good job of keeping it down, but now it's out in the open. When you do a little digging on what their mission statement is and what their purpose is, they are looking in the Milky Way to find life on other planets. Would it not be within the realm of possibilities they are looking for Jesus because they've discovered this stuff too? They're watching for his approach. Guys, I mean, too many things come together here. That is just, to me, it blows my mind that much stuff links together. Now, I'm absolutely not saying that this is going to happen on that day, but how amazing is it that all that stuff lines up just like that? And we can find all the direct links back to all the stuff that went on in the Bible. Jesus literally came at the beginning of the age of Pisces. We are about to end the age of Pisces, the end of that age. It keeps referring to that end of that age, going into the new age. The new age, ironically, is knowledge, wisdom, and rule. The millennial reign. Jesus will rule with a rod of iron. Knowledge, wisdom. Everybody's going to have that. It's all going to be part of it. Everything's changing. So very, very, very cool stuff to see. Now, I'm not putting a whole lot of stock into all the stuff with astrology. It's just very interesting to see these types of descriptions from non-biblical sources and from non-Christians. They literally are proving the Bible to us, and they probably don't even know they're doing it. Taking off. Sorry. All right, love you too. Be careful. Yeah. Enjoy. Anyway. Sorry about that. So, what do we do with this? Why does this matter? You know, it's very interesting to look at these things and go, hey, that's cool, and then just brush it off. You know, we're looking for Jesus Christ. We have faith. We're walking in faith, not by sight. But it is interesting to see these things. Now, here's what the purpose of all this is. If you watched the first video, which I hope you guys did, if you haven't, stop now, go watch it, because I'm about to piece a bunch together. In that video, I talked about the new wine and when the actual Pentecost was. We're actually entering into that time frame, according to what the Bible says and how it describes about the new wine, when the new wine was. I described all that in that video. That puts our time frame for the rapture of the church now. Literally, we're in July 31st today, the end of this time frame through August. And then September 14th comes after that, and all that stuff is happening. Is this not probably one of the highest watch times we've ever had? I know May 14th happened, but that didn't apply. I know June, everybody was looking for it in June. That didn't apply. That wasn't when the real Pentecost was. Could we literally, because of these details, could we literally be seeing us pulling into because we're in the end of the Pisces age. We just shown where most likely that's the sign of the Son of Man. We're in that final little tiny block of time, roughly about a month, August, to be taken up. Who knows? I'm not going to give you a time or day. I don't know the time or day. I can't find anything in there. The calendars have been messed up for too long. Too much time has changed. The Earth actually rotated a little bit on its axis. Things had to be changed at that time. So I can't give you a day or an hour. But I tell you what, guys, with everything that we're seeing happen, we're about to have a war in with Iran. All the other countries are now turning away from us and Israel and joining forces with them right this minute while I'm doing this video. Other people are putting up videos about it. Go watch Paul Begley. I know he's out there, but he gets a lot of good info. If there is a war that is sparked off, I'm telling you guys this from what I've been doing research on it, and I've covered this in other videos. The main battlefield is Damascus. The main battlefield is Syria. There's almost nothing in Syria anymore. They have no leader. Other countries, Russia's running Syria. All the armament and all the armies are in Syria. So Damascus is going to be the battlefield. It is going to be destroyed. They're still wiping out bits of it. It's less than 25% left. They were just hitting their own people here the other day. So there's Damascus getting wiped out. That prophecy is going to get fulfilled during this war. I look for this war to be 24 hours or less. It could go longer, but maybe 2 days, but most likely 24 hours or less. It is going to be so horrible and horrific. There's going to be dead everywhere. There's a part in the Bible, and I covered this in a previous video, where God talks about how he's going to invite all the birds. Israel has got one of the highest bird populations, and it's been growing in the world. Their biggest population is vultures. And God says he's going to invite them to come and feast on all these princes. Talks about their shield and buckler. You ever seen them in their uniforms over there? Yeah, they look exactly what the Bible describes. It's going to be so horrific and so devastating. They're going to be like, we have to have a ceasefire. This is ridiculous. Because it's going to be bad, bad, bad. They're going to have the ceasefire. They're going to throw the peace deal out there. They're going to sign it. That locks it in, shuts everybody down. Now everybody's living in peace. Israel's existing in peace. They're going to take their walls down. Everything's going to be hunky-dory, copacetic. Just after that, because Israel's going to have elections in September, I look for one of two things to happen. One, either Netanyahu is going to get assassinated, or Netanyahu is going to get indicted. Something's going to cause him to get out of the race and not be prime minister. I look for Jared Kushner to put in his bid to be prime minister, because either everybody else is going to be dead from the war, or so something drastic is going to happen. He's going to put his bid in, and they're going to elect him because they love him over there. The Kushners and Israel, very good friends. He's a member of the Chabad. He's an Orthodox Jew. They're the ones that are trying to bring the Antichrist Messiah in. He's part of that organization. His family name is from a little town outside of Poland in the old Roman Empire. He's of the tribe of Dan. He fits the perfect description of what the Antichrist is. He's not a lover of woman's issues. Now, a lot of people take that he's going to be gay. Wrong. Kushner married Trump, Trump's wife, or Trump's daughter. Trump's daughter used to be very outspoken. You hardly hear from her now. He forced her to become Orthodox and change. Her father's Christian. So, to me, that's him not caring about women's issues. No, you will conform. He made her do that stuff. Now she's quiet. Very interesting, very telling about these things. We see details and arrows pointing to this stuff. He is also the architect of the peace deal. Now, everybody's been jumping on the bandwagon about confirm. He must confirm. He must confirm. He must confirm. Great, yeah. If they have the war, say in August, something happens and Jared ends up putting in, because they're going to sign that peace deal to shut everybody down. It's signed. It's locked in. Kushner gets in. He has to sit down. Every leader has to do this, has to sit down and has to go sign their name on everything, approving all the things that the previous prime minister approved, prove or deny. He will have to sign his name on that peace deal that Netanyahu is going to sign and approve. Thereby, he will be confirming the peace deal. This is just what I see, guys. I'm not a prophet at all. I'm not getting any kind of special anointing. I'm not getting any kind of secret, super hidden messages and codes and stuff like that. Visions, no dreams, no nothing. I am nothing. I am just, in fact, I think I'm going to change my channel. Go away, Satan. I think I'm going to change my channel name to just Sean the Christian, something like that, because I'm just this. That's all I am. But I see these things and I can't help but point them out. I can't help but share them. Could we be literally about to enter into that age? Now, let's go back and I'm going to talk real quick and point something out about the sign of the Son of Man appearing in the heavens. This doesn't have to be, let's say we're raptured out in August. How ironic would it be that that would happen right then? Now, this doesn't have to be something where, they're going to see him coming and he's going to come. No, it could take 7 years for him to come through. Or they might see him and then it's going to go away. But they're going to mourn that this happened. And why would they be mourning anyway at that time? If we are looking for the rapture, we're rejoicing. Who's going to be mourning? If the rapture happens, the whole earth will be mourning. See where I'm going with this? And when it talks about the rapture, it says Jesus is going to come down into the clouds of heaven and we're going to go up and meet him. Milky Way. Guys, I mean, this, I may be seeing more than there. I don't know. I'm just putting this out there for you guys. You do what you want with the information. Take this and throw it away, whatever. If you want to hate me because I put it out, go for it. But I cannot help but see these things and find these things. I'm not putting a ton of stock into it. I'm not putting my faith into it. I'm just saying this is what I'm seeing. If this is the case, this unfolds, who knows? If it doesn't, then I was seeing things. I'm not calling this out as prophetic. I'm not stating a date, period. Because I don't know. The Bible says we don't know. I don't know. But how interesting that all that stuff lines up that way. How interesting that that pieces together. How interesting that nobody in all this time has ever been able to figure out what the sign of the Son of Man is. And now all of a sudden it literally jumps off the pages of the Bible. Who knows, guys? Who knows? I'm just offering this for y'all's consideration. Look at it. Bless me, curse me, love me, hate me. It doesn't matter. I have to share this because I've been sick When I hold on to stuff like this that he gives me, I end up getting sick from it. I've been sick for almost 4 days now. I'm tired of being sick, so I got to put this stuff out. So if you're watching this video and you haven't seen the first part of this video, please go watch that part, because that puts the whole wine thing in perspective of the new wine. I cover it in pretty good detail. You know what? I hope this stuff is correct. I'm not right. I hope this is right, this information, because then we're out of here next month. Well, soon to be this month. We're going to be out of here. This is going to be the wrapping up of this. And with the signs that are coming, it so looks like that's about to unfold. Who's ready for a wedding feast? No, I am. I'm ready for some fellowship with my Lord. I'm ready to stand in the presence of Jesus Christ. I'm ready to give an account for the things that I've done, things that I've said. I'm ready to commune with him. I'm ready to get this stuff out of the way. And I'm ready to serve him in the ways that he needs us to serve. I'm ready to embrace him and tell him I love him to his face. I mean, he's in here, so he knows it. But this world has nothing for us. This age has nothing for us. This time is over. There's nothing for us here. Now, if nothing happens in the next couple of months and we just go into 2020 and nothing changes, call me a heretic. Call me a false prophet. Call me a false teacher. It doesn't matter. I don't care either way. I'm just sharing this. And it's really funny that I'm not the only person that sees this. Other people are seeing this. That ought to tell you something. If other people are seeing it and none of us are communicating, same thing happened with the new wine. Other people are seeing this too. They'll be putting out videos about this. I just found their videos last night. I've been seeing this for 2 weeks. Why is this suddenly opening up to everybody? Is he talking to us? Guys, I think so. For your consideration, do what you want with this information. I bless you all in Jesus' name. I pray this is accurate, and I pray we're out of here in August. I am so tired of this world. I'm so tired of the hatred and the heaviness in the air and in the spirit. The battle. So tired. I'm tired of being in pain. I'm tired of being sick. I pray it's accurate. I pray God blesses you guys richly. And I pray that we get to meet each other in heaven very soon and see each other in the clouds. Please watch this and take it for what it is. It's just me sharing what I have with you guys. I am not making a prophetic statement in any way. I think why I didn't put this out in the first place was because I felt like I was going to look like a fool in front of people. But after last night, after talking to him and after realizing these things, I thought, it doesn't matter if I look like a fool. How many prophets, I'm not saying I'm a prophet, don't read more into what I'm saying. How many prophets have come along throughout history and have shared what they said, and people called them fools, and now those things are coming to pass? I'm just saying it's part of the job. Part of the job of being a watchman, sounding the alarm. If nobody listens, it's on them. If I don't sound the alarm, I'm wrong and derelict in my duty as a watchman. It's just something to watch for. It's just something to look at, not to put our faith in. We put our faith and trust in Jesus Christ. That's it. Okay, guys, I got to stop because otherwise I'm just going to keep going and rambling. But that's all I got. Do your own research on this. Do not trust me. Do not believe me at all. Look at it for yourself. Pray on it yourself. Do your own research into this and find the information. Find the details. I am by no means a trustworthy source. I'm just sharing what I've been given and sharing the Word of God with you guys. I highly encourage you to do your own research. Do your own studies. Take this for what it is. I love you guys, each and every one of you. Whether you hate me or love me, I love you guys anyway. I care about you guys, and I really, really, really am looking forward to meeting everybody when we get up in the clouds. How amazing is it going to be that after all this time us talking, we're finally going to get to meet each other in person. In glory. It's going to be cool. It's going to be awesome. I'll see you guys in the next video. Or maybe in the clouds, depending on what happens.